How am I an artist? So, when we think of an artist, okay, I think many people have in their minds an artist as a professional, you know, somebody who maybe went to art school or is just extremely skilled at creating art. But I'm going to split up artists into two different types here, okay? I'm gonna call that first type of artist that I just talked about as I'm just gonna call that a career artist, right? So some people make art into their career, and and those people are typically acknowledged as artists across the board by anybody typically. All right, and then on the other hand, I'm gonna call an artist one who does art. So you can see that these are kind of different here. We got an artist. This is somebody who has made a living out of it. This is their it's what puts their bread on the table. If they wrote down on a resume or if they were to put down on a job description of what they do, they would be an artist. And then on the other hand, you just have somebody who does art. Now that's a much broader uh, group of people. And I would even argue to say that everybody can fall into that category. I think that everybody does fall into that category. Now, the question is, how are you an artist? Now, I don't know who's watching this. You might be a professional artist. You hopefully will still get something from this episode, maybe a different perspective. But whether you're a career artist or you're not, there's still maybe areas in your life where you are creating art that you never considered art. Like, for instance, you could be a career artist, so you obviously consider yourself an artist, but there might be some other area of your life that you are being an artist, but you don't consider that art. So I'm just trying to broaden our understanding of what an artist is and how we can identify the artist inside ourselves. So, what is art? I'm going to define art as a creative expression. Okay, and that's a pretty heavily debated topic anyway. Like, what it really is art. People will go to sort of contemporary abstract art exhibits, and some people say that's not art. That's a statue of poop or whatever. And then someone else will say, oh no, that's art. That's the most breathtaking piece of art in the whole exhibit. So there's a lot of squabbles between what is and what isn't art. Well, I'm going to define it for the purpose of this episode and for the purpose of broadening our understanding of what art is and for the purpose of identifying how we ourselves are artists. I'm just going to define art as creative expression, right? So you're expressing yourself and you're doing it in a creative fashion. One could argue that every way of expressing yourself is a form of creativity, because the only way you can really express yourself is through some sort of medium. When we talk, we're using our vocal cords and we're using the air molecules that vibrate as the medium, and we're doing that creatively because we could point to something instead, and that would also be creative. Or we could draw a picture, or there's different ways. All forms of communication in a sense are creative. So we could take art and we could broad it up, really make it broad to the point where we could really look around us and see the way that we interpret the world is quite creative, and the way that we come to know the world is through creative expression. And in that sense, art is absolute from our perspective, right? All we can really know and all that's ever was present is some sort of uh, creative expression. Because if it's not trying to express anything, or it's not trying, if you're not trying to interpret it, then there's nothing knowable there. So I think it's nice to broaden things like that. And I think that that is a good perspective. But let's actually now bring it in a little bit. You know, we started with our very narrow definition of what an artist is when we were talking about a career artist. And then we really broadened it up to the point where art became all there is. Now let's kind of go in the middle a little bit, right? How are you an artist in your day-to-day life? What actions are you taking? And what activities are you partaking in creatively? Um, it could be your job. It could be the way, depending on what you do. You know, you could be a cook, and it might be the way that you like to cook eggs or whatever it is. The specific way that you do it, you express creatively what you want someone else to experience, a certain flavor, a certain texture. You know, you got that in here. You know that you like it and you've experienced it, and you're trying to put it out there, and you're doing it creatively, and you're expressing it through your cooking. And that you don't even have to be a cook by trade. You can look at that just as you're cooking at home for yourself or a friend or a family member. So you can become more mindful of how you are expressing yourself creatively. And we can also apply this to any other job. I mean, like, you could be a salesperson, and it's the way that you try to communicate with people and talk to them. It could be the passion that comes through if you're trying to genuinely help somebody. Um, it could be you're a machinist, and it's the way that you like to do your work, a particular way that get a really nice result that could inspire others to learn new methods. It could be, if you're a counselor, it could be the way that you try to make somebody feel comfortable, and the way that you are trying to help because you care, and you're expressing that care creatively through the means that you've learned in order to be a counselor. Um, it could be, it could be some of the more typical things, like you like to draw, you like to write stories or poetry or lyrics. It could be literally a daydream in your head. When you close your eyes, or you're looking out the window and you're imagining something. The very act of your imagination playing out is a creative expression. So the point of this episode really is not to dilute and to you know, expand the definition of artist so far that it loses its meaning. No, the point of this is to add a new perspective to your arsenal of perspectives, so that you can really look at your day-to-day activities in your life, and how you reach out to people and touch people in your society. It's to become more mindful of those things, which mindfulness in general is a good activity. And just ordinary mindfulness is great. But what I'm saying is to use that mindfulness and to be curious about how the typical day-to-day things that you do in your life that you typically don't consider art how is it art? Identify that. Identify what you're doing and how you're creative. How are you creative? What is it that like you're creative about? Are you creative mechanically? Are you creative with storytelling? Are you creative with painting? With coming up with games? Whatever it is, you can take when you are mindfully observing your day-to-day life and the activities that you do, and you are curious about in which ways you are being creatively expressive, then this also gives you some insight into which directions you may want to go into if you want to develop yourself further, um, as a person, as a worker, or as an artist. When I started to become more curious and mindful about how can I make my how can I fuse my personal development with my career, that got me to be much more mindful of in what ways am I able to through my work express um, express authenticity and inspiration, um, and to convey how I feel through the work as a person. And by looking at that, and by looking for those examples in my work, I was able to be much more aware of what I'm good at, what I'm good at, and what I want to develop further. So yeah, that's the end of this episode. If you like this, then please hit the like button. If you want to see any more content like this, then please subscribe. If you have anything you want to say, then please comment down below. If you know anybody who might like this, then please share it. And if you want to get notifications whenever I drop new content, then hit that little bell button. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.